How did Disney burn $250 million only to turn one of the most iconic fairy tales into a flaming dumpster fire? Oh, you're not ready for this one.
Was one of the most beloved animated Disney classics of all time. And just as Disney has done in recent years with many of those classics, they have decided to remake this in a live-action version while also updating it for modern audiences. And that update came in the form of Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress.
Y'all, Disney's latest attempt to go woke might have just gone broke because their Snow White remake didn't just flop, it exploded into one of the biggest box office failures in recent memory.
Then a couple days after its release, we get the true story. A ho-hum Snow White opens to $43 million. Well,
like, imagine pouring $250 million into something and getting roasted harder than a Twitter scandal. And trust me, the drama behind it? Whew, it's messier than Cinderella's family tree. And guess who's not keeping quiet about it? Yup, Joe Rogan. The king of calling out Hollywood's BS came in hot, dragging everything from the film's CGI nightmare to its tone-deaf casting decisions. And that's just the beginning, because apparently, this isn't just about a bad movie. No. Some people, including Joe, are suggesting that Elon Musk's DOGE, aka Department of Government Efficiency, should step in and investigate this catastrophe. Yup. The same Elon Musk who's slashing government waste is now being linked to Snow White? So how did we get from magical woodland creatures to federal audits and public outrage? Let's rewind the tape, because the deeper you go, the uglier it gets. So, let's talk about the leading lady, Rachel Zegler. From being hailed as the next big thing after West Side Story, to becoming the face of one of Disney's most humiliating disasters. Like, girl, how did we get here? At first glance, it looked like Disney was trying to make a bold statement, casting a Colombian-American actress as Snow White, a character historically portrayed pale-skinned and, well, let's just say, the fairest of them all. But instead of praise for diversity, the internet exploded. People didn't just criticize the casting, they felt betrayed, like Disney was rewriting history just to fit a narrative. But the real chaos, it started when Rachel opened her mouth. And no, not to sing, she dragged the original Snow White story like it was her ex. In interview after interview, Rachel shaded the 1937 classic, calling it weird, outdated, and even saying Prince Charming was basically a stalker. What? Baby, you're playing the main character in a fairy tale. You can't call the entire plot toxic and expect people to still show up with popcorn. And then came the political heat. Rachel didn't just criticize the movie. She went on record wishing that Trump and his supporters would never know peace. Yeah, you heard that right. The Disney princess literally told millions of Americans to sit down and shut up forever. Like, sis, who advised you this was okay? Now imagine this. You've got conservative families, the exact people Disney used to cater to, watching the lead actress trash traditional values and their beliefs. Did they boycott? Oh, they sure did. It wasn't just about politics anymore. It became personal. And that's when the numbers started to nosedive. By the second week, viewership dropped by 66%. That's not just a flop, that's a full-blown evacuation. But hey, Rachel wasn't alone in the drama, because behind the scenes, someone else was stirring the pot even earlier. Someone you wouldn't expect. And that someone is none other than Peter Dinklage. Okay, so if you thought Rachel Zegler was the only reason this movie blew up in Disney's face, honey, think again, because months before the first trailer even dropped, another controversy was quietly detonating, and his name, Peter Dinklage. Yep, our beloved Tyrion from Game of Thrones stepped into the chat, and let's just say he didn't hold back. In a podcast interview, Peter blasted Disney for planning to feature 7 dwarfs living in a cave together, calling it backward and offensive. His words? What the fuck are you doing? And guess what? Disney panicked. Like, full-on crisis mode. They scrapped the classic dwarfs almost overnight and replaced them with a bizarre, racially diverse group of magical beings that looked like a mix of Burning Man rejects and Halloween cosplayers. No, really. The CGI was so awful it became meme material before the film even hit theaters. People were confused. Some were mad. Others just laughed. But the common vibe? This is not Snow White anymore. Fans weren't asking for perfect representation. They were asking for recognition. Something that felt nostalgic, magical, and faithful to what they loved as kids. Instead, Disney handed them a politically sanitized fever dream with no real heart, no real dwarfs, and honestly, no real plot. The story was so detached from the original that even critics were calling it soulless and empty. And let's not forget, the OG Snow White was a historic film, Disney's first full-length animated feature. It literally built the foundation of the entire Disney empire. So, to see it gutted, rebranded, and dragged through controversy after controversy, it hurt. Fans weren't just disappointed. They felt like they were watching the death of Disney magic in real time. But wait, it gets darker. Because while the internet was roasting the film and critics were tossing out one-star reviews, a surprising name came out of the woodwork: Joe Rogan. And when he speaks, millions listen. So, just when you thought the Snow White train wreck had hit rock bottom, Joe Rogan slammed down his podcast mic and said, "Hold my protein shake." On a recent episode of The Joe Rogan Experience, Joe and comedian Kurt Metzger went in on Disney. And when we say they held no punches, we mean zero. Joe mocked everything from the painfully bad CGI to the awkward, cringy, politically fueled performances. And when he got to the dwarfs, let's just say the word nightmare fuel was thrown around more than once. But then Joe did something that made people's jaws drop. He said that this mess was so financially irresponsible, it should be investigated by DOGE, aka the Department of Government Efficiency, a new watchdog program headed by none other than Elon Musk. Yes, Elon freaking Musk. According to Joe, blowing $250 million on a film that barely made $43 million in its opening weekend is not just bad business. It's practically a case study in waste. And since Disney gets certain federal benefits and tax breaks, the logic is, shouldn't someone hold them accountable for flushing that kind of cash down the toilet? Kurt Metzger jumped in too, saying Disney's obsession with checking boxes over storytelling had turned what should have been a classic, heartwarming reboot into a virtue-signaling CGI disaster piece. Like, imagine caring more about Twitter clout than crafting a story anyone actually wants to see. And y'all, this wasn't just internet talk, because once Joe Rogan said it, the story exploded. Headlines everywhere screamed, "Joe Rogan urges Elon Musk's Doge to investigate Disney's $250 million Snow White flop." It wasn't just entertainment news anymore. It was a political story. A business story. Suddenly, people were asking real questions. Why did this cost $250 million? Where did all that money go? Who approved this script? And why is one of America's most iconic studios now pushing content that nobody wants? And this leads us into the final part of the story, where we look at the bigger picture. Because the downfall of Snow White, it might just be the clearest sign that Hollywood is in a full-blown identity crisis. So here we are, a $250 million remake, a lead actress who alienated half the country, a CGI mess that made fans cry for the original dwarfs, and a podcast host calling in Elon Musk to clean up the wreckage. But this isn't just about one movie, is it? Nah. This is about a pattern, a bigger shift in Hollywood where studios care more about performative politics than powerful storytelling, where reboots replace creativity, where alienating your audience is somehow seen as brave, and where a company like Disney, once the gold standard of imagination, is now being clowned on podcasts, dragged in think pieces, and booed by the very fans who grew up loving it. Let's be real. Snow White was never just a movie. It was a legacy, a symbol of where Disney began. And now, its remake is being remembered as the moment fans officially gave up. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is out here cutting federal spending through DOGE and saying, hey, maybe companies wasting hundreds of millions on box office bombs shouldn't get away with it. And honestly, he's not wrong. Because if Disney keeps burning money on message first, magic later content, then what are they even selling? Joe Rogan saw it. Millions of viewers felt it. And even Disney, whether they admit it or not, knows they dropped the glass slipper on this one. Hard. So what's next? Will Disney finally listen to the fans and bring back storytelling with soul? Or are we just watching the slow death of a studio that lost its way? All we know is this Snow White might go down in history, not for being a fairy tale, but for being a full-blown cautionary tale. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Disney can recover from this? Or is the magic officially gone? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. 'Cause baby, the tea's always piping hot over here.